And this is Ezra.
Shabbat Shalom. Let's start off with something you don't need a prayer book for, or you don't need any words for. Just a beautiful melody for a beautiful evening. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 lai. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to our guests and our members. We got some guests tonight. Welcome. Glad to have you here. And welcome to our members and people who might be celebrating a great simcha in the coming days. So we'll get around to the simchas in a moment. But to honor one particular simcha, I would like to invite up to light our Shabbat candles 3 women of 3 generations in one family. Ruth Gaston, we'll call her grandma. Amy Sheenan, we'll call her mom. And Katie Giamona, and we'll call her daughter. 3 women of one family, all here celebrating Ruth's upcoming 90th birthday. So mazel tov to you, Ruth. Would the 3 of you come on up to light our candles, please? And please turn in the prayer book to page 3.
O source of light and truth, creator of eternal goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. We like to begin Shabbat by sharing simchas. Simchas, good things that happened to you during the past week that you can relate in one sentence. So in addition to Ruth's, not past week, but upcoming 90th birthday. Who has a simcha that you would like to share with our congregation from this past week? Any simchas that you'd like to share?
I got to visit my newest granddaughter.
I'm going to repeat for those watching online. Hello, everybody online. Karen says she got to visit her newest granddaughter. Other simchas from this week? Janet?
I celebrated my 35th wedding anniversary.
Janet and somebody else here celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary, and it was lovely. Thank you. Any other simchas? In the prayer book on page 14, you'll see one of the Psalms that we recite to welcome in Shabbat, and the bottom of that page, you see it says, Or Zarua. Now, Or Zarua means light is sown, light is planted. And here we have a text from the Psalms, ancient poetry, page 14. And you might say, how could you plant light? You can't plant light. No, our ancestors, we're going back now, somewhere between 2,500, 3,000 years ago, they're using metaphor. We sometimes think, oh, metaphor is something modern. Back then, they wouldn't have used metaphor. No, of course, it's metaphor. But interestingly, in the Middle Ages, the Kabbalists said, oh, no, that's real. There's really light in there, inside. Anything you look at, the darkest place, there's light hidden in there. So here's a poem by wonderful poet Stu Kestenbaum, a poet laureate of the state of Maine, who riffs on this Kabbalistic theme. So the text is not in front of you, but we'll come back to the text in a moment. It's called Holding the Light. Gather up whatever is glittering in the gutter, whatever has tumbled in the waves or fallen in flames out of the sky. For it's not only our hearts that are broken, but the heart of the world as well. Stitch it back together. Make a place where the day speaks to the night and the earth speaks to the sky. Whether we created God or God created us, it all comes down to this. In our imperfect world, we are meant to repair and stitch together what beauty there is. Stitch it with compassion and wire. See how everything we have made gathers the light inside itself and overflows. Bottom of page 14. Latzadik ul Yisrael simcha. Page 26. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba v'alma divrach irutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei techol beit Yisrael bagala uv'izman kariv v'imeru amen. Yehesh merabba mevorach leolam ulol me'ol maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha rifu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma ve'imeru. Amen. You may stay seated. We rise for certain prayers, but if standing on your feet is not the most comfortable thing, rise in your heart. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. You may be seated. Let's continue reading together on page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim v'chochma poteach sha'arim uvitvuna mishaneh itim umachalif et hazmanim umisader et hakochavim v'mishmarotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or uma'avir yom umevi layla umavdil bein yom uvein layla Adonai tzivaot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Ma'ariv Aravi. Page 32. Please read with me. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 34. Hear, O Israel, Adonai our God, Adonai is one. Hear, O Israel, Adonai our God, Adonai is one. Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Hear, O Israel, Adonai our God, Adonai is one. Hear, O Israel, Adonai our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Adonai, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Page 37. They're all praying. It's just the sound, everything. It's the sound. Page 37, let's read together. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Page 43. So you had so much fun seeing that one is around. You had to do this one is around too, okay? Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu, Leshalom. V'ha'amidenu, Shomreinu l'chayim, Ufros aleinu, Sukat shlomecha. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu, Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Page 45. We read together. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. Yeah, I gotta back up. Thanks. Sunlight on my face, dirt upon my skin, water's sweet embrace, and the healing wind. Open up my lips, that I may declare your resplendentness, glory everywhere. Adonai, Sifatai Tivta, Ufiadi Tehilatecha. Adonai, Sifatai Tivta, Ufiadi Tehilatecha. Adonai, Sifatai Tivta, Ufi yagid tehilatecha Adonai Sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Page 48. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei hakol, v'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, u'mevi gula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo b'yahava, melech chozer u'moshia u'magen. Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, v'ezrat Sarah, atah gibor leolam Adonai, mechaye hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morit hatal, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim berofech cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha bal gevurot, umida melach, Melech memid umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua b'ne'emanat halachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated. Page 56. Find favor, Adonai our God, with your people Israel, and accept their prayer in love. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call, turn lovingly to your servants. Pour out your spirit upon us. Let our eyes behold your loving return to Zion. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai, hamachazir shechinato l'tzion. Page 59. Let's read together in the middle of the page. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh lehodot. On the next page. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam, Tasim le'olam. Melech Adon, Ki atahu Melech Adon lechol haShalom. All right, now you know the chorus. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam, Tasim le'olam. לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה, שלומך, שלום רב על ישראל אתה, שלום רב על ישראל אתה, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל אתה, שלום רב על ישראל אתה, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל אתה, 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 שלום רב על ישראל אתה. At this time in our worship, we ask for healing for members of our congregation and their loved ones who are ill. If you are praying for healing of body or healing of spirit for a loved one, I invite you to share that person's name out loud as my eyes pass yours. Those who are watching online, unlike being in the sanctuary where I might be able to get a chat message from you, please know I'm not going to be able to see those names that you are entering, but we hold your loved ones in our hearts as well. If you are praying for healing for a loved one, please say that person's name out loud.
Harriet Hardy.
Eileen Martha.
Jason.
To those whose names we have said out loud, we add those whom we hold in our hearts. We say, Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, God, the source of healing. Let us say together, Amen. You could find words for silent prayer on pages 62 and 63. You don't have these words in front of you, but it's the shortest song I know in terms of lyrics. This is a musical setting for a text from Helen Keller. I believe that God's in me. 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 The light in my darkness, the voice in my silence, in me as suns in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe the God's in me. I believe the God's in me as suns in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe the God's in me. I believe the God's in me as suns in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe the God's in me. I believe the God's in me as suns in the color and fragrance of a flower. The light in my darkness, the voice in my silence. Whoa, You know, there's just been so much in the news this week. I'm going to skip over it. I'll get to it another time. But I want to go back 1 week because that was a big week too. Last week, the Knesset voted to place new restrictions on Israel's Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court in Israel has been the guarantor of democracy ever since the founding of the state. The current ruling coalition in the Knesset, nominally led by Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party, took aim at the Supreme Court from the moment that they were sworn in January of this year. I say nominally led by Netanyahu because it is now readily apparent that the tail is wagging the dog and that the extremist parties to the right of Likud are calling the shots. The reason that Netanyahu went along with their demands to hamstring the court, to use a treifa metaphor, is that without the support of those parties, the government falls, and then Netanyahu is no longer prime minister, and when that happens, he will be on trial for corruption. This is how Rabbi Eric Yaffe put it this past week in Haaretz. He wrote, "Terrified by the possibility of prison, Netanyahu is dead set on keeping his job regardless of the prevarications and compromises demanded, embracing demagoguery at previously unimagined levels, and fostering as never before his own cult of personality." Does that sound familiar? He has shown himself willing to dismiss checks and balances, demand a judiciary pre-selected for its political sympathies, and move Israel in the direction of an electoral autocracy. I know that electoral autocracy requires some unpacking, but I'm not going to go there. But that's the reason why Netanyahu formed a government with the Haredi parties, Shas, that's Sephardic ultra-Orthodox, and United Torah Judaism, that's Ashkenazic ultra-Orthodox, neither of which are Zionist parties, as well as far-right nationalists who rally under the religious Zionist banner. So what you've got in the coalition are extreme nationalists who believe that the state should be all-powerful and able to deal with Palestinians from a position of militant obstinance or worse, and religious parties that tolerate the state but really want to see a theocracy. Now, this is no joke. The government of Israel is now in the hands of the most extreme factions, compared to which Likud looks downright moderate. Only the Supreme Court has stood in the way of their goals. When religious parties succeeded in gaining exemptions through the Knesset, exemptions from military service for full-time Torah students, the Supreme Court said no. The burden of defense of the country cannot be borne solely by secular Jews who would be laying their bodies on the line to protect those who do not work, who do not pay taxes, who do not learn basic core subjects in school, and do not serve. So what do the religious parties want? The ability for the Knesset to override the rulings of the Supreme Court by a majority vote of the Knesset. When Netanyahu appointed Aryeh Deri, the head of Shas, as interior minister, the Supreme Court said no. Deri went to jail for bribery and fraud when in a previous government he was finance minister. Then later, after being reelected to the Knesset, he entered into a plea deal for tax offenses, a plea deal that included resigning from the Knesset. Now, it was the court's understanding that his resignation meant that he would not seek re-election. So, after he was reelected, and after his new appointment now to a position that invites the kind of graft for which he has twice been convicted, that, the Supreme Court says, simply does not pass the smell test of reasonableness. When right-wing nationalists built illegal settlements on Palestinian lands in the West Bank, the court said no. The religious Zionists do not want to be challenged in court every time they try to create new facts on the ground that further undermine the possibility of a Palestinian state. And then there are the host of proposals on which both Zionist and non-Zionist religious parties agree, many of which are culture war battles that have long been on their agenda, but which they previously lacked sufficient political muscle to initiate. More separation of men and women in public spaces, restrictions on the rights of Arabs, Reform Jews, and LGBTQ people, and amending the law of return such that our converts and the children of many intermarried parents will not be eligible for citizenship because they will not be considered Jewish. The bills introduced by these parties have had as their aim dismantling the ability of the Supreme Court to protect minority rights and the integrity of the government. The vote last week to limit the application of the reasonableness clause is only the first step. These parties have been clear about this. It is this assault on democracy that has been the catalyst for the largest public protests in Israel's history. We are not bystanders. Zionists were never an audience to someone else's drama. We have always been engaged with the character of the state of Israel, the kind of Jewish values that it would exemplify, the commitment to democracy, as the Jewish people's response to a history of powerlessness. Last week, two of the most powerful advocates for this view of the state of Israel made a direct appeal to us American Jews, not to give up our historic role as Zionists. Orly Erez-Kikovsky, director of the Israel Religious Action Center, told us the following: it is our duty to raise our voice for Israel through protest and through letters and emails to the Israeli consulate. Member of Knesset Gilad Kariv, the only Reform rabbi ever elected to the Knesset, told us we need to play a role in making sure that the international community, and especially the American administration, sends the right message to the Israeli government. We should not be on the sidelines when we have the ability to shape the American response. Our counterparts in Israel are asking that of us. Here's how you can follow these events and be an advocate. Subscribe to The Pluralist. That's the newsletter of the Israel Religious Action Center, Our Voice in Israel. And join ARTSA, the Association of Reform Zionists of America, which you can do on your membership renewal for our congregation. On the Sabbath before Rosh Hashanah, we read this Haftarah passage from the book of Isaiah. Lama'an Zion lo echeshet. For the sake of Zion, I will not be silent. Isaiah was not just speaking about himself. He meant that for us too. Well, I know that was very serious reflection on what is indeed very serious and disheartening news. Deserved some comment, and not to go by without observation, but we have lighter, more enjoyable things coming ahead in coming weeks here at Congregation Beth Emek. So to give us our announcements of upcoming events, Eva Holtz, Communications Chairperson for our congregation, is going to share what's coming up at Congregation Beth Emek. So Eva, just be careful as you walk up here around. Just careful.
Reputation precedes me. Well, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you, Rabbi Milder, of course, for leading the service. And thank you to all three generations of you who took part in the candle lighting. That was lovely. And for the Oneg, thank you to Amy and Mike Sheenan as well. And of course, we hope you'll join us over there. Not too tricky. As usual, we will have Torah study Saturday morning, 9 a.m. in the social hall. All right, that's one detail I didn't write down. And then a few upcoming events to share include the Seniors Tea and Lemonade. That's Sunday the 6th at 2 p.m. You can RSVP in the Once Around or ask me if you need that link. Madrachim are wanted for, is it Hebrew school and Sunday school, I suppose? Application is due Wednesday the 9th. Beth Emek's open house, if you should wish to attend, is Sunday the 13th, 10 to noon. And the same day, we're hosting a CPR, AED, and first aid training, and that's at 12:30 that day. And excitingly enough, on Friday the 18th at 7:30, we have our Shabbat celebration. We celebrate Rabbi Miller's 10th anniversary. And we also have our musical guest, Saul Kay, at that time. So what's the opposite of a double whammy? I don't know. Double header? I'll work on that one, workshop it. Thank you.
Just going to put one more plug in because tomorrow morning after Torah study, we also have services. It's the first Saturday of the month. So we do Shabbat morning services on the first Saturday of the month. That'll be at 10:30. Adult ed classes. Don't forget to sign up for adult ed classes. Information in the Once Around. Let's see. Aleinu, we're going to continue with Aleinu on page 282. I invite you to please rise as you are able. Page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anavnu korim, umishtakavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You may be seated, page 287. Please read with me. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד. ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו Judaism teaches us the sacred duty of memory. On this Shabbat, we remember those members of our congregation and their loved ones who have died within the past 30 days. We observe Shloshim for David Altman. And I invite those who are observing Yahrzeit for a loved one during the past week to rise as I recite their names. We observe Yahrzeit for Sylvia Becker, Rebecca Hyams, Barbara Jonas, Marcia Noble, Harry Rosen, Ann Veland. And I invite all who are observing the first year of mourning to rise at this time. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We rise as one congregation, united by memory and compassion, to praise God's name. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 294. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah ba'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach la'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei d'kudisha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, uyaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Let us say together, amen. You may be seated. Now, following our closing song, we will have cups of wine and grape juice for everybody and little pieces of challah. So pick up a cup, we'll pass them around, pick up a cup of wine or grape juice and a piece of challah. Hold on to them, we'll recite Kiddush and Motzi together. The red cups are wine, the white cups are grape juice. For a closing song, if you'd please turn to page 340, we're going to sing a song of hope for Israel. Probably one of Debbie Friedman's very best known compositions, Im Tirtzu. But what's fascinating about this song is the creativity that went into it. Because what she did is she took the famous quote by Theodore Herzl, Im tirtzu ein zo agada, if you will it, it is not a dream. And she spliced it together in a kind of textual mashup with a line from Hatikva, Lihiyot am chofshi ba'artzeinu, to be a free people in our land. Notice what she did. She took the dream and the fulfillment of the dream and put them together in one song. don't you bring those trays over? We'll pass them around while we're singing, okay? Im Tirtzu, Im Tirtzu, Ein So Agada, Ein So Agada, Lehiotam Boshi Be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim, Tirtzu, Im Tirtzu, Ein So Agada, Ein So Agada, Im Tirtzu. Well, let's join together in Kiddush, and those watching online, I hope you've got something to say Kiddush over. Thank you, Amy. And if you'd like words for Kiddush, they're on page 5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila v'mikra'ei kodesh Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki ba'anu b'acharta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-shabbat. L'chaim. And I'll take that challah. Thank you very much. Oh, look, it's beautiful. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. No, I did. Take that from me. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom to everybody watching online and from any of our